Good morning. Welcome to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll begin this meeting at 9:03. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then that will be followed by a moment of silence for Community Service Agency employee Sharice Babb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and please remain standing for our invocation by Pastor Stuart Welch of Life Connection Church. Pastor, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. If you would, let's pray together. Father, we do thank you for another day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together, this meeting. We're praying for the collective wisdom of this board, praying for that Babb family, and not just them, but so many others that are facing loss and grief as they wake up this morning. Praying over our city as we come up with love all of our communities this weekend, and we're praying for all that you will do in and through us. In the mighty name of Jesus, thank God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Did get me better.
All right, now we will enter into item number 4, which is presentation celebrating Library Week here in Stanislaus County. And we're going to have our county librarian, Sarah Denton, for a presentation. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Condit, Supervisors, Mr. Bose, Mr. Hayes. I'm so pleased to be with you today to discuss the library's activities since we met a year ago. And I'm hoping we'll see it soon. Lovely. There we go. Okay, next slide. I'm going to, so our mission statement, as I'm sure you're aware, is that Stanislaus County engages all members of the community and offers access to information, knowledge, and tools for innovation and personal development. And every day we invite our community to create, learn, and discover with us. Next slide. I'm going to open with a quick financial overview. In the fiscal year 2022, the library took in $15.7 million in revenue. Unsurprisingly, the largest portion of that is from our dedicated sales tax. And as always, I would like to thank the community for its continued investment in our libraries. The next largest segment of revenue is state and federal dollars. This is primarily funding from the state library supporting literacy and ESL programming through Learning Quest. And we also do get funding from the county's general fund, so thank you for that. And a small portion of our income does come from library fines, donations, and fees. Next slide. So our expenses for fiscal year 2022 totaled $11.8 million. 60% of that is staff salaries. 31% is operating costs, which is everything from our leases for our leased buildings to our paper clips. We spend about 5% of our budget on library materials, and the final 4% that you see there is debt service on the loan for the Turlock Library. This graph reflects our circulation numbers, and I am particularly excited to see this. The green bar there is fiscal year 2022, whereas the blue bar is the previous year's circulation. And so you can see in 2022, we circulated 1.1 million materials. And what's really exciting, that's physical materials. What's really exciting about that is we are almost at pre-COVID circulation numbers. So if you compare that to the previous year when we had less than 500,000 circulations of physical materials, that's really good news. We're really happy about that. We did see a slight drop off on our e-circulation, but overall we're at 1.3 million circulation of all of our various kinds of materials. So program attendance for fiscal year 22, this was the first full year that we were back open and doing programming. So fiscal year 2023 is going to look even better, but I am pleased to note that we did see nearly 18,000 kids in fiscal year 22 in our programs. But it's not just people coming to us to visit. We did have nearly 500,000 people come into our libraries over this last fiscal year. I will say that is not yet approaching pre-COVID numbers, so we're working on ways to bring people back. The people who are coming are checking out more, but we want to get some of the people that we lost during COVID back into the building. We had 2.6 million website visits. Which is kind of impressive. I would say people who use our website use it a lot, so that may account for some of that. And then 532 home delivery visits doesn't sound like a lot, but every single one of those visits is bringing materials to someone who cannot leave their home. So every single one of those visits is an opportunity to break people's isolation and keep them connected to their community. So we're very proud of that. We have been working to both continue existing partnerships and build partnerships. I first want to mention the University of California Cooperative Extension. We've been working with them for quite a long time. They provide our most popular adult programs. Every month they are doing something different about gardening and what you can do in your home, if it's fruit trees or worms or any number of things. And I'm pleased to say that as of recently, they are now providing programs at every location that has a space that is appropriate for programming every month. So that's super exciting. Workforce development helped us with our Career Pathways initiative, which incorporates library programming and a broad range of resources for job seekers. Stepping out of county agencies, libraries across the state have partnered with the California State Parks to circulate state park passes, and we've recently added backpacks that contain some field guides and some binoculars to support that initiative. Through our Discover and Go program, which is a program that allows us to essentially check out museum passes, we have added the Carnegie Arts Center and the Gallo Center for the Arts. At the Carnegie Arts Center, you can use your library card to get a free pass for the museum, and for the Gallo, we have tickets available for certain performances, including the upcoming performances of Edgar Allan Poe pieces. So if you're interested, let us know and we can hook you up with that. Finally, in service to our youngest community members, we are gearing up to our partnership with the Modesto Children's Museums, which was generously supported by this board, so thank you for that. Looking to provide county-wide access to this incredible resource, and then working with our local Imagination Library partner to provide children under 5 with books that they can keep. So that's Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. Families sign up and they get a book every month for from birth to age 5 at no cost to them. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about our satisfaction survey. This year we did our 2nd annual survey. The 2 big questions we ask have to do with satisfaction and with importance or value. Overall, how satisfied are you with Stanislaus County Library? I do think it's safe to say our users are generally pretty satisfied with the service we provide. 92% note that they are satisfied or very satisfied. And I have to say this number is essentially unchanged from last year. Overall, how important is the Stanislaus County Library to you and your family? Also holding steady is customers' perception of our value. 97% of respondents say the library is important or very important to their families. So even if they're not always thrilled with the service they get on a particular day, they do seem to see the importance of what we offer. So we ask a number of open-ended questions on these surveys because we really want to hear directly from our customers. When we asked how the library benefits you, we hear people say, it has given us access to books, even in Spanish, that we can use at home. It makes us happy. When we come to the library, we feel at home. The books we bring home fill us with joy. I love that. Promotes reading from 2-year-old twins to 92-year-old mom. Personally, I owe my love of literature to the Stanislaus County Library, as it allowed me to rediscover my passion for reading as an adult, which is fantastic to hear. Those those pull quotes reflect the overall theme of those open-ended responses. When we ask about the benefits, people mention first and foremost the books and other materials. Then they speak about the resources and programs for children and families, so we know that that's of value to the people who use the library. And then finally, no-cost access. The fact that the library, which is supported by the community at large, is available at the point of service at no cost is really valuable to people. And finally, I wanted to speak to We Build Community. Next slide. Because we feel very strongly at the library that we do build community, and it was interesting to see that indicated very clearly in the responses we got. When we first moved to the Valley, a friend suggested going to the library to try to make friends and build community. Sure enough, we met some wonderful lifelong friends. Sometimes living in the Central Valley can be a drag, but the resources and people at the library make Modesto really special. And then if the library were to close, I would move. Real towns have real libraries, which for me feels really special because that's my goal. My goal is to create a space for the community to feel at home, and I do feel like we're moving in the right direction. Not to say there's not room for improvement, but we are definitely doing the work. So the last thing I want to talk about is to thank you for the proclamation declaring this National Library Week in Stanislaus County, as well as across the country. The theme for this week this year is There's More to the Story, and all week we will be highlighting library stories. Every branch is displaying local statistics, so similar to what I did here, but for their local, so that people can see how much their neighbors are using their local libraries. We are highlighting some of our more unexpected offerings on social media all this week, so you'll see things about Discover and Go, which I mentioned, but our ukulele kits and any number of other things as well. And then finally, Tuesday, so today, is National Library Worker Day. So since that's today, and we do have a number of staff here, and hopefully at least a few watching remotely, I am really hoping that you'll indulge me as I say thank you to the staff that makes all of this happen. I've said this before, but I've worked in lots of different libraries in California and around the country, and this is hands down the best staff I have ever had the opportunity to work with. The staff we have are the most creative, dedicated, and kindest people with whom I've had the opportunity to work, and I am profoundly grateful for this team. I know our users are as well. So, thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I also know that we have representatives from the Library Foundation here, and they'd like to say a couple of words, if that's okay.
First of all, bravo, that was great. Okay, good morning, Board of Supervisors, where is he? He moved around. Oh, there, I thought you moved over there. Okay, Board of Supervisor Condit, it's good to see you. We were here approximately a year ago. I'm Pat Portwood. We have Carol Blomquist, Jane Manley, and we have Susan Thomas, who is now flying home from D.C. But so anyway, we are members of the Stanislaus Library Foundation Advocacy Committee. And a year ago we were here, and we thank you for always doing this every time, because the libraries are that important. And we shared with you the depth and breadth of services that we have been provided by the Stanislaus County Library, which we then went out, and all this past year we have been sharing at every city council or municipal advisory council within our county. It was quite a task, but we divided up into groups. We went out all parts of our county and visited all of these leaders. So our next person, Carol.
The message we heard time after time from the people at those meetings was how much the residents in these communities value and treasure their libraries. For example, they were pleased to hear how their communities participated in the Summer Reading Challenge and how so many county offerings are available to all. We emphasized that in order to meet the diverse needs of county residents, materials and programs are available in different languages.
So as Pat said, we know that you value the library as well, demonstrated by your allocation of $10 million for capital improvements. We're so grateful for that support. The next step in our advocacy journey is to focus on the physical needs of our libraries. And as you know, we have beautiful new libraries, or upgraded ones in Empire and Turlock, so thank you for those.
Recently, however, several libraries suffered major damage, water damage from all the rain, and I'm sure you heard about it. Fortunately, the library was able to make the needed repairs within their current budget, but it has definitely pointed out a need, and that need for serious attention to our libraries, such as Waterford and others, who are close to the same age as moi. No, I'm just kidding. They're not as old as I am, but they're getting there, and they are in need of help. So we strongly believe that all of our communities deserve this beautiful and inviting libraries that can be a source of pride.
So what we'd like to encourage you to do now is, if you haven't done so lately, is go visit the libraries that are in your jurisdictions, in your districts. And that will help you become aware of the strengths and needs of each branch and as they serve your constituents. So thank you for your attention today and your dedication to our library system. We'll continue our advocacy work and keep you informed of our progress.
So thank you very much.
Stay up, and Sarah, if you want to come up, I'll present the proclamation, so the foundation wants to join as well.
Staff too?
Yeah, sure, the staff can come up.
Yeah.
Everybody. That's right. Of course.
Staff first.
You're going to be able to get everybody, Erica? Yeah. You know, Albert Einstein has a quote where he says that if you know one thing, absolutely, it's where the location of the library is. So if you don't know your location of your library, you better find out. Our libraries are a gateway to knowledge and such a valuable resource for our residents here. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your contributions in making our libraries a success. So it's an honor to present you this proclamation on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors.
That was a great save.
Oh. The gentleman back there is hiding a little bit too much, yeah.
You're hiding too much.
A little, okay. And smile, 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 one more. Got it.
I think I should say something.
I miss you doing stuff like
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Now we will move on to our second presentation, which is by Mr. Tom Saddlemeyer, and he'll be given a PowerPoint on the Employees Retirement Association update. Tom, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for the update today.
I appreciate the opportunity. I certainly appreciate the partnership that we have with the county, and I haven't had a chance to meet all of you individually one-on-one, so I welcome and look forward to that opportunity. You know, one of my purposes here this morning is to let you know that, you know, I absolutely have an open door. You know, consider me a resource when it comes to any questions or concerns you have about our retirement programs. I think it's an incredibly important asset that the community values, and I think, you know, we'll walk through today kind of the high level where we're standing right now. But as you have questions, some of these issues can get complicated. we're glad to be a resource and glad to help and maybe help simplify things for you. Let's go ahead to a couple slides ahead, and we'll just start out with kind of one more slide, and we'll go to the financials of the plan and just kind of recap the last year leading up to the latest valuation report that was issued. The assets in the plan are sitting just over $2.5 billion, and the last year, and we'll get to this in the next slide in a few minutes, the last year we did have a downturn in the market. Most of you are probably well aware of that. And it is something that I'll say, obviously, we don't like to see that, but in the course over time, we do expect to see that. And we don't necessarily get concerned on a year-to-year basis in terms of how the market is moving. We're going to monitor that and make determinations whether or not we need to make some adjustments. But for the most part, we're going to expect to see that there are going to be down years and there are going to be up years. What's happened over time and what we can be very confident in based on the history is that we will see a positive movement upwards over time. And that's really the important thing for us to keep track of when it comes to our investments. But the assets did go down slightly in terms of investments last year, down by about $160 to $170 million, which interestingly enough is about the amount that we make in benefit payments each year. That's obviously supplemented by the fact that we get in contributions in. Very large contributions come from our employers, most significantly from the county. And then we also have the members making significant contributions to the plan as well. So all told, with the expenses that we had, with the payments that were made, with the downturn in the market, plus those contributions, we had a slight downturn from about $2.7 billion to $2.5 billion over the course of the year. In terms of the liability side of the equation, what we owe to people, we work very closely with our actuary to determine and do kind of a full look at that every year and determine where that stands. And we actually do that by looking at each individual and making a value as to what the value of that benefit is for each individual, depending on where they're at in their career. Obviously, those that are very close to retirement, it's a more solid in terms of number, in terms of what we expect to pay them. Those that are early in their career, we make some assumptions around how long they're going to work and how that benefit will grow for them. And those liabilities in the plan total up to around $3.3 billion. So we do have a shortfall. It's about an $800 million unfunded liability. And obviously, there is a plan in place to cover that and pay for that over a period of time. A few just key points before I leave this slide, and that is that the majority of asset values in a pension plan of this size and this nature, are always going to come over time from investment returns. It is very important that we keep in mind that the reason we're investing the funds is that getting some return on those assets is going to be required in order to keep this plan affordable for the community in terms of the contributions that need to be made. And again, this is kind of a proven process over time. We do invest very prudently, and we invest in assets that we feel are conservative and quality in nature that will allow us to achieve a rate of return that will help fund the plan and make it affordable. But over time, this is sort of just a universal truth of these pension plans, that the majority of those assets are investment returns, not actually from contributions that are made. So it's important that that be part of the process. And then, as I mentioned, and I'm probably beating a dead horse, but I think it's a point worth repeating, the focus on these plans should always be in the long term, not the year-to-year performance and what's occurring. We're building these plans to be sustainable for essentially forever, for our lifetimes and beyond. And we need to keep that in mind when we're considering, any decisions that we make or moves that we make. Let's go on to the next slide and just kind of take a look at a summary. This is a chart, and I know Rick last year presented some similar information. I wanted to kind of add to it and just add a little bit of context and color. But here you can see the 2022 results where we did have that negative 6.2% return on our investment. And that was really strictly related to a downturn in the overall market. Most of you probably experienced that with your own personal assets. If you have invested in the market. You probably saw last year was certainly a down year, and we've seen a lot of volatility over the last several years. If you look back to 2021, it was one of the most positive years in terms of returns, with over 25% increase in the returns that we experienced in our investments. So it was a tremendously positive year followed by a negative year. And if you look back over the history, you're going to see that kind of bouncing around a little bit. Very good years, average years, some down years mixed into there. And overall, what we're experiencing, and I've got it highlighted on the last few bullets here, I like to just share, okay, what's the history look like? What do we learn if we look over a long period of time in terms of how the investments have done and how the market has done? And you can see that over a 25-year period, this plan's investments have earned 6.4%. Over a 10-year period, the last 10 years, we've actually had a really good run in the market the last decade or so, going back to the 2008-2009 period even. But in that time period, in the last 10 years, we're up tremendously, 7.7%. This year, I'd like to share, just so people are aware, how are we doing this year? The market's been a little bit flat, but a little bit up overall. So about 5% increase through March 31st is where we stand this year. And part of the point on this is just to kind of give context for, how do we make assumptions around what do we expect to earn over time? Because that's going to be very important for us to be planning appropriately so that we can meet the commitments to our employees that are members of the plan. And we have an assumed rate of return that's been set by the board at 6.75%. That's pretty average for California, maybe a little bit lower than average, which is a good thing in terms of having a more conservative and achievable approach. I don't think 6.75 is getting too low, because achieving 6.75% in our current market does absolutely require taking on some risk. Now, there is a potential, as the economy's changed and the interest rate environment has changed, that we may have some opportunities in the near future to de-risk a little bit and scale back on some of our more aggressive or risky investments and invest in more more conservative and less risky investments. That's something that we're going to be taking a much closer look at this year with our investment consultants and doing a study on our asset allocation. But in the long term, the 6.75% I think is a good place, and I think the board's made a good decision in terms of where they stand. If you look actually at the universe of pension plans across the country, 6.75 is, I would say, slightly lower than average. And that's a good place to be in terms of good fiscal conservative planning for the plan. There are some other assumptions baked in that I think are important and will come into play in our discussion. We have a cost of living increase assumption of 2.5%. And again, that's looking at the long term. What do we expect the cost of living assumption increases to be? We all know the last couple of years, the cost of living increases have been much higher than that. And given that that's the case, that's something for us to monitor. Do we anticipate that inflation that's occurred to be a transitory thing that will go away and that will come down to the lower levels? Or will that be a more sustained issue that we need to consider? And that's something that we'll monitor and the board will monitor in terms of making a decision if we have to make a change in that area. And that very much relates to the pay increase assumption as well. Labor markets are very much affected by inflation. And as you guys know, and as our organization knows, as inflation goes up, wages tend to go up as well, which is a positive thing, but it can be a challenge in terms of these plans and in terms of increased benefits that are going to be due in the future. So something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead to the next slide. And I'll just briefly touch on this. This is the net employer contribution rates for the new year. And based on all the factors that we talked about, and there are really two primary drivers to what's affecting the employer contribution rates this year. The main driver was actually demographic losses, and we can sum that up by the inflation driver, the higher salaries, and the higher cost of living increases that are going to be due to retirees in the plan. We do have a benefit in the plan, which is a wonderful benefit for retirees that allows for an up to 3% increase in their benefit. However, when we max out at that 3%, that does drive a higher cost to the plan overall, because there are going to be more funds due as benefit payments to those members. We also, as we see higher salaries occur, higher than we expect to occur, that's going to drive cost in the plan higher as well, because as active employees who are working today are earning higher amounts, that is a key driver to what their benefit will be in the future. So if we see higher than expected increases in pay, that's going to have an effect on the bottom line in terms of what's owed to keep pace with meeting the obligations. We do see some movement on the contribution amount for the asset loss as well, but you can see from the chart there, it's actually a much smaller percentage of the increase that's attributable to that. And part of that is because we actually smooth out any losses or gains that we experience in the marketplace. It's kind of an actuarial math thing that we do so that we don't see such a big movement from year to year based on how the market moves, knowing that over time that's going to even out and show an upward trend. I've highlighted on the last bullet there just to give people a sense in terms of the dollar figures, what's going to be paid into the plan from the employers and primarily from the county. And we're looking at an employer contribution of over $110 million for the year. And that's supplemented with the employee contributions that will be made of just over $30 million. Let's take a look at the next slide. So one of the things worth talking about just for a minute to kind of bring it down to a personal level for employees and members is, well, what's this benefit worth? Like, what are we talking about? And something that's always been helpful for me is to take a look at, and we did this based on a lot of the actuaries' information, but we broke it down between general members in the plan and safety members in the plan. And using the actuarial assumptions, which again are extremely conservative assumptions, so these don't even reflect what I would call true value to the member. They're actually conservatively low. But if you look at members of the plan, and this includes on the left-hand side of the chart, those members that are new employees that have just started to contribute to the plan. It also includes people very close to retirement who have accumulated a much more valuable benefit. But those who are general members have a benefit that's in the $300,000 to $400,000 range as valued by the actuary on average. For safety members, it's closer to $600,000 to $700,000. And then if you look at the retired members, those who have actually achieved a place where they can leave employment and start collecting a benefit, so that's more reflective of what the benefit will be worth for members. For general members, it's approaching $500,000. For safety members, it's in the $900,000 type range. And these figures are growing significantly. And this kind of gives you guys a sense of how valuable a benefit this is to individuals and how important it will be as part of their retirement security.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Is this essentially, just for the public, this is using safety, a retired member, they essentially have an annuity of $883,000, right? When they start collecting, is that the way to think of it? That's going to pay out?
Think of it, so most members collect a benefit that's a payment for life. When they retire, based on whatever age they retire at, they will be collecting a monthly benefit of a few $1,000s every month for the rest of their life. And depending on how long their service is and how high their pay is, those will be the primary drivers of determining by a formula what that benefit is when they leave employment. And if you leave employment when you're 52 years old and start collecting a payment for life of a few $1,000s, that's going to be a lot more valuable than a benefit than if you leave at age 65, because if you're closer to the age that you would be expected to pass away based on all the data that we have, the value of the benefit is going to be much higher if you start at a younger age. So this is just a sort of a present value calculation of what the average benefit is worth for those individuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And, one point I wanted to make in today's session, we spend a lot of time, and rightfully so, in our discussions and in our board meetings, talking about investments, talking about the financials of the plan, talking about how we can make sure that we're planning appropriately for the future and for meeting the obligations. But at our heart, Stansura is really a service organization, and we're here to serve the members of the plan, and we're here to serve the community. And I think that's something that's an important point for us to always keep in mind. I think Stansura provides an important service to the community, and it's really a critical component, and for many people, it's the centerpiece of their retirement income and their retirement security for the members and their families. And so I think that's an important point for us to always keep in mind. We also have a very, I think, positive economic impact on the community in terms of supporting financial security for residents and people who were members of the plan, but also by real dollars that flow into the community. We're making $160 to $170 million in payments annually to mostly local residents, and that figure is growing and growing over time. And I'm sharing with you here kind of the organization, and this is prior to my coming on board, but it's a wonderful statement of our vision and our mission. And I think those are important points for us to keep in mind in terms of why we exist and what services that we provide. And we're going through it as an organization right now and taking a look at where we stand and what are the things that we can do a little bit better. And I've laid out some of the objectives that working with staff that we're focusing on, which include customer engagement and doing a better job of working individually with members and educating members to help them make good decisions for their financial futures. I think the pension benefit is a critical component of it, but I think it's also important to point out that it's important for individual members to do other things in terms of saving for their retirement as well, and I think we can play a role in that. But we're also very focused on our administrative excellence, reporting and transparency, efficiency and innovation, and also sustainability, making sure that the program works for the long term. So I'll flip to the last slide and just talk about what's next from both a plan level and a member level. I know most of you are well aware of PEPRA, which went into place about a decade ago at this point, and new employees of the plan go into our PEPRA, or Tier 6 program, which is a slightly reduced benefit. It's still a wonderful, fantastic pension benefit, but it does have slightly better cost structure for the long term. And we're actually at a point where we have about 60% of our members into PEPRA, and that's only going to grow over time. So that bodes well financially in terms of the planning for funding of this plan in the future, especially as we see that population grow, the costs become a little bit cleaner and a little bit more predictable and a little bit lower. And that can be a positive thing in terms of the financial planning that's required. We're also going to be monitoring the economic environment. Certainly inflation that we've touched on, the interest rates, which have risen quite a bit over the last several months. We have to monitor that because it'll have an impact on the investments that we've made and the options that we have. The labor market is absolutely a factor, which has been very tight for a long time, but we expect that to loosen up at some point in the near future. It is anticipated, most economists would tell you that lower growth is anticipated, perhaps even a recession could be occurring. There does appear to be quite a bit of policy working to prevent a severe type of recession, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes and monitor that and see what opportunities exist in terms of the investment decisions that Stansura makes. And we also, have to keep in mind we don't live in a bubble. We live in a global community. So some of the geopolitical conditions, we have an election coming up in the United States in the next year. We have issues going on in China and Russia and Ukraine, and those can have an impact on some of the investments we make as well. So things that we need to keep in mind. In terms of planning that we're engaged in, we're going to be doing that asset allocation study that I mentioned, which could result in some tweaks. I don't expect major changes to our investment policy and our program because it's a really good one and a strong structure that we have in place. But this is important that we look at this very closely with the experts that we engage with and make sure that we're making the right decisions for the future. We'll also do an actuarial experience study. We do that every 3 years. That'll be coming up in another year or so. We'll do another one of those. And I think the current environment with the inflation and the increase in wages is gonna be a factor that we'll take a closer look at. And then something for you guys to keep in mind for the long term, the employer contribution for that unfunded liability, that $800 million gap that we currently have, that is being paid off over a 15-year period. Basically, if you look 15 years down the road, that could be a significant drop in the contribution that's required from our employers. And so that's something to keep in mind long-term for planning. It's always important to keep in mind that that's based on current assumptions, and sometimes the assumptions we make don't hold true for that lengthy a period of time. So it's, again, something to monitor and keep an eye on, but potentially a reduced contribution off in the future, a decade or so away. From a member level, we're very focused on service delivery and technology. Obviously, in the current world, everyone is used to using technology and using websites to access their personal information. So Stansera's made an investment in that front, and we'll actually be working on rolling out in 2023 enhancements that will allow members to access their information on a portal on the website. So that's an exciting change that we've spent a lot of time and energy planning and working towards, and I expect members to see a real benefit from that. Sometimes members can better understand and appreciate their benefits if they have better access to it, and that's something that we're going to be working on. We're also going to be working on more, in conjunction with that, more educational opportunities for members. I think coming out of COVID, COVID put a damper on some of those interactions that we had, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to leverage the technology and re-engage with our members in a way that's hopefully something that will be helpful to them in their financial futures. So those are really the main comments that I wanted to share, and I'm happy to take any questions either now or certainly if you would like to meet one-on-one in the future, I'm glad to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry?
Tom, first, welcome. We're glad you're here. Tom is a transplant from Florida, right?
I am.
We don't have very many coming this direction lately, and we're very happy that you're here and all that you're doing for Stansera. You know, for years, Jim DiMartini was our Stansera guy. I don't know if you probably never got a chance to meet Jim. And so then I took the spot. They just stuck the accountant in there. Anyway, I enjoy working with you and look forward to many years doing this. A couple quick things I wanted to point out if we could. We talked about the $169 million loss, but that's technically we're recognizing that loss, not necessarily realized loss. That's just a drop in value that we recognize, this is a drop in value in our assets. We didn't actually lose the $169 million, go out and sell things and recognize that, realize that loss. But it is, regardless, it is still a number that we have to take into consideration as you come up with your funding numbers, how much the county has to kick in. The other thing is, we always talk about the county, how we're debt-free, we make a point of telling everybody that, but we always, we need to make sure we always point out there's still an $800 million debt out there that the county, that this board is responsible for funding at some point. And like you said, we've got a 15-year amortization, and we're trying to pay that down. We're trying to get to that point, but it's something that always has to come into play as we make our decisions, as we do our budgets here every year, and as we look at our reserves and try to realize, we've got a lot in reserves, let's go wild and spend this money. We've just got to remember that this is out there. And for future boards, and thank God for previous boards, that number is always out there and taken into consideration when we do our budgeting and try to figure out where we stand. So So that's just a point to continue for not only for us, but for future boards that have to remember that number's out there. The increase in our burden this year, bumping up, I know it went down last year, but going back up this year, that's just another thing that we always have to take into consideration. We look at wages, we always have to look at those fully burdened wages, what it really costs us for our employees to do this and to pay them not only in their wages, but to fund their retirement for the rest of their lives. And so it's a balancing act that we have to do here. And anyway, very much appreciate. I know this probably seems terribly boring, and for the millions of people at home that are watching right now, but it is crucial to what we do, and the work you guys do is crucial down at Stan Sara towards the health, the financial health of this county. And I welcome any of our board members, to come sit in on these meetings too. It is interesting stuff. We sit there and go through the investments every meeting. How are we doing? Where's it going? What changes? What course corrections do we need to make? And so it's just that important to the health of this organization. So thank you, Tom, and welcome. We're glad you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words. I've really appreciated getting to work with you and having you on the board and getting to know others in the community. So I really appreciate the warm welcome. I'm super excited to be here and appreciate it. Thanks, Terry.
Okay. And Vito?
Thank you very much. Welcome, Tom,
Thanks.
to California. We love taxpayers. So I want to make sure the public knows today on our agenda, it's one of the items, it's the annual report. It seems complicated, but if you just think about pensions are based on years of service, a retirement age, and the lower the retirement age, the higher the amount of payout or liability that accrues. There was pension reform done back in, I think, January of 2013, right? It took effect, which had lower tiers now. So all people hired after that date are have to work longer, and then they have less opportunity to spike their income. And I see the 3 or 4 older folks in the audience all smiley because they're still in tier 5 or one of these other tiers. But it truly is making a difference, because I look at our employer rates, and you save a couple percent on general employees because it didn't change much, but it's 7 to 8% in the safety side. So long-term, as we hire more people, it's going to be more manageable for the county. I'm glad you also put into account what I always call them annuities, the value of retirement, because we have a 17% vacancy rate here in the county, which is undeniable. And I'm constantly telling my child, you need to get a county job, you need to get a county job, you need to work for a municipality because of the pension system, but they don't realize the value of that because it's 30 years from now or 40 years from now. So it just is another tool in our recruiting toolbox. Again, appreciate everything, and I like that we're hopefully on a path. I know we've gone to more secure investments, which I think long-term is good for us as we can afford it.
Absolutely.
Vito, thank you. All right, Tom, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
presentation. All right, moving on to the public comment period. Public comment is a time for those in attendance to speak on items not related to the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Direct all comments towards the dais, and so is fair for every speaker, keep comments to the 5-minute time limit. I do have one public comment card, and it is from Jose Espandola. Jose?
Yes.
Jose, good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Like you said, you like people that pay taxes, and here's mine. I paid just on my property here, just $1,900, and the property in Merced, $1,100. But the thing is, I have a problem with the Stanislaus County Sheriff. They raided my place in Merced County and took $30,000 of working equipment that I use for my business, CalPro Roofing, license 10-11-696. For 23 years, I've been a contractor, and I'm a law-abiding citizen, that why would the sheriff of Stanislaus County raid my property in Merced County? I just don't see no reason. Look how they left me, 6 months in the hospital for intentionally inflict emotional distress. And I got a bill that they made up for me, and nobody wants to listen. I talked to a lot of people, and they just don't want to deal with it. Look, I had the place rented out, and now the lease told me that they were going to hold the funds until this property dispute agreement resolves. This happened last August, and since then, I got anemia. Now I got my 25 years of diabetes. I know I shouldn't mention this to you guys, but you know, I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm like I said, law-abiding citizen, and this is the contract that I had that they broke. They made it fell through, and because they violated my Fourth Amendment and my 14th Amendment, and now I'm on crutches, and I feel crippled all the way down, from here down, because I get ulcers on my feet, and like I said, 25 years of diabetes, and especially having sheriffs that work for the county that don't know what they're doing. Even the police dispatcher said that they just need training. But what about me, and you know, what's going to happen with me if you guys, if they keep hiring those kind of corrupt sheriffs, corrupt policemen? That's all they are. And there's like 17 violations: vandalism, illegal search warrant, you name it, it's all there, you know. And the properties in Merced, what's Stanislaus County doing over there? I just don't see no reason for them to be going out there and destroying, making my deals fall through. And, you know, I don't know what to do. That's all I got to say. I mean, there's a lot of it, but I'm not used to speaking behind the mic. So
That's okay, Jose. Thank you. We have your information.
okay, thank you very much.
All right, that is the only speaker card that I have. Does any other members of the public wish to comment on any items not related to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on and close public comment period. We will move on to the consent calendar. Do any Board of Supervisors wish to comment on any item on consent? Okay, seeing none, I will open it up to the public. Do any members of the public wish to comment on any items on consent? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for action.
Make a motion to approve consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Withrow and a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously 5-0. All right. We will move on to item number 8, the discussion items. And we have a PowerPoint presentation by Mr. Dave Lehman regarding the North County Corridor. And this is a 4/5 vote. Mr. Lehman, good morning.
Good morning, Sheriff Condit, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, County Council Bose. Good morning, all. Here to talk about two resolutions of necessity. The first that we're going to ask you to consider is the Martin Family Holdings. And they're at the southeast corner of Clarabelle and Oakdale. The agenda for this is we're going to describe the project, we're going to go over an overview of the process, And the discussion of this property and is for these APNs, 0083, 002, 001, and 016, Martin Family Holdings. And here's the North County corridor. The project limits go from Oakdale and Clarabelle out to past Claus, up and over the MID Main Canal, and then over the BNSF tracks, grade separating the intersection at Clarabelle and Terminal. And here's the subject property. There's a close-up of it. And so this is just, we're just doing the RON on what we need for the project that we're working on right now. Here are the project approvals to date. Caltrans approved the Sequent NEPA environmental documents and route adoption on May 22nd, 2020. These actions confirmed the alignment 1B, alternative 1B, and created and improved the North County Corridor project. The public interest and necessity required that the NCC project will improve the regional network circulation, relieve existing traffic congestion, reduce traffic delay, and accommodate future traffic on State Route 108. It'll support the efficient movement of goods and services and enhance traffic safety. The greatest public good and least private injury. Through rigorous environmental study and public outreach, the project has been designed to maximize the benefits to the public at large while minimizing impacts to private property owners. A thorough analysis regarding the need for each property interest was conducted in the project's planning stages. The project team has worked diligently to minimize the need for property acquisitions. Alternative 1B is the alternative which is planned and located in the manner that is most compatible with providing the greatest public good and least private injury. Here are the key RON findings required. That the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project Phase 1, final EIS approved May 22nd, 2020. Project is planned in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. The subject properties are necessary for the project, and offers have been made to the parcel owners to be acquired. And staff, here's the staff recommendations. Find that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project. Find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. Find that the subject properties APNs 083, 002, 001, and 083, 002, 016 Martin, describing the resolutions attached to the staff report, are necessary for the project. Find that the offer required by Section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners of the properties to be acquired. Adopt a resolution of necessity in the form attached to the staff reports as Attachment 1. Authorize County Council to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the subject property.
Mr. Lehman, thank you. Do any board members have any comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will open it up to the public. Do any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I do want to mention we received a written correspondence, and that will be entered into the record. So I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Graywall and a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes 5-0 unanimously. Okay, moving on to item number 8.2. Again, we have another presentation by Mr. Lehman regarding the North County Corridor.
Again, good morning. We're here to consider the second resolution of necessity. This is on, there we go. This is on APN 083, 002, 028, Pacific West Development Corporation. We're going to talk about the project description, an overview of the process, discussion of the individual property, which is APN 083, 002, 028, Pacific West Development Corporation. Again, here's the project limits from Oakdale and Clarabelle, south on Oakdale to the new alignment. There's an interchange at Roselle, and then up and over the MID Canal, up and over the BNSF tracks, and lands at Claus and the new alignment, and then extends past there on Clarabelle, tapers out. And here's a property that we're acquiring. It's the southwest corner of the new interchange at Roselle and NCC. And this is the property that we need to acquire. Caltrans has approved the CEQA NEPA environmental documents and route adoption on May 22nd, 2020. These actions confirmed the alignment 1B and created and approved the North County Corridor Project. The NCC project will improve the regional network circulation. It will relieve existing traffic congestion, reduce traffic delay, and accommodate future traffic on State Route 108. It supports the efficient movement of goods and services, and it also enhances traffic safety. Through rigorous environmental study and public outreach, the project has been designed to maximize the benefits to the public at large while minimizing impacts to private property owners. A thorough analysis regarding the need for each property interest was conducted in the project's planning stages. The project team has worked diligently to minimize the need for property acquisitions. Alternative 1B is the alternative which is planned and located in the manner that is most compatible with providing the greatest public good and least private injury. The key RON findings required. The public interest and necessity require the NCC project Phase 1, final EIR, EIS approved May 22nd, 2020. The project is planned in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. The subject properties are necessary for the project, and offer has been made to the parcel owner to be acquired. And the staff recommends. Find that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project. Find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. Find that the subject property, APN 083-002-028 Pacific West, described in the resolutions attached in the staff report, are necessary for the project. Find that the offer required by Section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners of the properties to be acquired. Adopt a resolution of necessity in the form attached to the staff reports as Attachment 1, and authorize County Council to initiate imminent domain proceedings to acquire the subject property.
Mr. Lehman, thank you. Again, this is a 4/5 vote. Do any members have comments?
Thank you, Chairman. Dave, this kind of leads any negotiations on about
We've
taking the whole
been
parcel?
offering to buy the entire parcel. We see that. It would create a flag lot. We cannot condemn on a future need. And so we just can condemn on what we absolutely need today. And so, but we intend to, should negotiations be successful, purchase the entire property.
Copy that. Thank you.
All right. No other comments or questions? We will open this up to the public. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Keza, a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. All right, we will be moving on to item 8.3, which is a PowerPoint presentation by Damian Martinez on the Annual Performance Outcomes Report. Damian, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, CEO Hayes, and County Council Bowes. I'm Damian Martinez, Senior Management Consultant with the CEO's office. And today, Patrice Dietrich and I will present on the 2021-2022 Annual Performance Outcomes Report. So I'd like to turn it over to Patrice, who will provide an overview of performance visioning.
Good morning. Your board adopted the Stanislaus County Vision and Mission and Board Priorities as a component of the 2022 adopted budget on September 21st, 2021. Our mission, you've heard a few times this morning, is 3 simple words: we build community. It's easy for all of our employees to remember, and it models the collective spirit that we all have to make a positive impact on our community, relying on our internal and external partnerships. To bring that mission to life and to support the county's vision, mission, and board priorities, the county leadership continues to practice performance visioning. We identify the essential performance outcomes for each county department. The department leadership teams put that information together.
And we have a model, our own model, that challenges the county organization to answer one straightforward question: what does success look like? And you'll hear us say that in meetings. You'll hear us say that and ask that question when we're confronted with challenges and opportunities to think through and move forward to benefit the community. This slide actually reflects our performance visioning model in a pyramid. And you can see there's a lot of detail on that slide, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. On the right-hand side, it shows from the top to the bottom, cascading down from your board vision, mission, and values, the values which were just adopted by your board last week. So we've now completed that top of our pyramid. It cascades down from that vision mission to your board priorities, which are aimed at a positive impact on the community. So we have community indicators that we monitor and track in each update of our performance outcomes report to you, and we try to align those with 2-year budget cycles. Your board has goals and focus areas that we also embed within our budget processes, and then department missions align with your goals and focus areas. They do their own internal strategic planning. They come up with, we will use the phrase success measures. Again, that's a bit unique to us. When you read external data on how you track performance, that's often called performance measures. And then the departments put into place strategies and objectives that they work on in 2-year approaches. And optimally, we would have those plans, the plan for what performance we hope to achieve in advance of each 2-year biennial budget process. If you look on the left side of the pyramid, then you see how, in order to carry all this out, we're monitoring and we're measuring. Are we making a difference? And I just feel like I have to do a shout out this morning to the couple presentations that we had, both from the library and from Stanislaus, in both places, coming back to you and talking about how are they making a difference, what's happening, what do the data metrics show. It's crucial to continued performance and the results that you all have come to expect and that our community deserves. So with that, on the left side of the pyramid, it starts at the bottom. And so some of the basic measures we will do are how much did we do? Okay, so this is quantitative. It's not talking about the value of the work effort. So moving up the pyramid, how well did we do it? That gets to the quality. But the most important question is actually up there at the top, and what we're all working towards, the most important, is anyone actually better off? I want to say one more thing about this pyramid, because it is the one place where you can see the totality of what this model means in the county. One of the things we're proud of, and what I think is, it could be unique to us, is that as we're measuring our performance from cycle to cycle, year to year, or 2-year cycle, we may find ourselves moving up and down in those measurements, right? How much we did. We saw this morning with the library. There was a year where we did less, and now we're coming back again. We're moving up and down. This is something I'm actually looking at my chief executive officer's face, because he will often talk about that, and that this is about our being a learning organization, right? And our commitment to continuous improvement, to keep our focus, to ask the questions, to look at the data so that we can continue to get better. And that makes it a wonderful organization to work in. So the document we're presenting to you this morning is actually the annual performance outcomes for 2022. And traditionally, we would have that report to you earlier in the fiscal year. We delayed that on purpose, took a slower approach in gathering the information, because so many of our departments were involved in the financial management and budget system upgrade and implementation that happened in the fall. And so as we were gathering the data, it felt a little like anticlimactic for us, but we think it's important to document our progress because we're about to get ready for the next building of, what comes next for us. So Damien is going to highlight a few of the 2022 department performance achievements.
Thank you. So before I highlight the department accomplishments for fiscal year 2021-2022, I'd like to note a couple things. First, that we are using the board priorities that were in existence at the time of the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And moving forward, we'll identify and use the new board priority titles. I'd also like to acknowledge that the departments that we are going to discuss today, that we have representatives here in the audience who are available for questions should you have any. So you'll notice here on the slide, and there are 6 of these, that we have notable accomplishments from the departments. The first column is the board priority area. Second column is the county department and the selected accomplishment. So the first slide here relates to the sheriff's department, and these are highlighted accomplishments. Each department, of course, has a number of different accomplishments, but these were notable ones in the 2021-2022 fiscal year. For the sheriff's department, there was increased the law enforcement presence and provided a greater level of service by successfully reestablishing a substation in the community of Salida. We'll go on to the next slide, which will highlight the child support services. Their selected accomplishment was that they collected and distributed $59 million in child support. The third slide in the third department we're highlighting is workforce development, and they held 12 work-based learning workshops with businesses in healthcare, manufacturing, warehouse, logistics, and the agricultural sectors. In this slide here, which you've already heard about the library, their selected accomplishment was they completed and opened the Turlock Library. Moving on to GSA, the General Services Agency, they achieved an overall cost savings of $6.6 million for goods and services procured for all county departments. And the final department that we're going to highlight this morning is environmental resources. And their selected accomplishment was that they adopted the groundwater sustainability plans for the Modesto and Turlock groundwater subbasins and adopted groundwater well siting and construction guidelines to assist with well permitting. So now I'd like to turn it back over to Patrice for some additional summary comments.
Stanislaus County Code actually includes a statement that the Chief Executive Officer will prepare and submit a report annually to the board that identifies the administrative activities of the previous year, along with recommendations should there be any to better public services. We have been pointing to the annual performance outcomes report as one of the ways that this requirement is met. In the past, we have also had a separate annual reporting process that came through our communications and media and marketing team. And what we're planning to do going forward is actually step back up again and get back to the annual reporting coming from that portion of our office. The annual report then will be aimed and going out to the community. And then we are also planning to continue our performance outcomes reporting and to tie that to our biennial budget reporting so that you'll see a 2-year budget plan and then you'll see a 2-year report that will really align what the outcomes are from the investment of the resources that was input at the beginning of the plan with the biennial budget. Again, because there was a bit of a delay in bringing forward our 2022 look-back report, we just wanted to touch base on a couple of things that the organization is actively working on or has recently achieved, because we are currently in the performance visioning period that ends at the end of fiscal year 2024. So, excuse me. On the screen are just a few of those works in process or accomplishments. So at the top there, I mentioned the Enterprise Resource Planning Oracle Cloud implementation was completed in October of 2022. And then we've also implemented, as of February 2023, the budget tool, which is called Enterprise Performance Management. And I think that title is key because there are components of this module that will let us track financial performance in a different way as we learn how to use it fully. We're currently engaged in the beginning of that process. The board approved as part of the 2023 proposed budget the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program. Chief Executive Officer actually hired a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Manager, and we are super glad to have Eilish on board. And I did want to just note that the initial focus here is on coordinating and leveraging strategies to advance equity using a data-driven approach. So again, that ties right into our measuring and performance. Currently, the team is working on an internal language access survey to get a more accurate picture of the language access needs of the individuals who are served by all of our county departments. And we did actually just get an exciting data point shared with us at our senior leadership meeting in the last couple of weeks, which is that we currently have 1,153 employees certified for bilingual pay. And that represents just over 27% of our filled positions, or 23% of our allocated positions. So that's something for us to be proud of in terms of our ability to speak to our customers in the languages that they are familiar and comfortable in. Also included in that number is 1,008 employees who are certified Spanish speaking to assist our public. Also of note is, I think Supervisor Case, I believe, mentioned our county vacancy rate, just under 17%. I think the most recent month, April, in the month of April, we were at 16.1%. So, every little percentage point we're tracking on this as progress. So we're excited. Our Chief Executive Office Human Relations Division is partnering with Workforce Development Department on our first Stanislaus County Job Recruitment Fair, which will be May 12th at the Martin Peterson Event Center in downtown Modesto. So we're hoping for a great turnout there. And I actually want to read this sentence because our HR Director, Tamara Thomas, is passionate about this, and she noted for me that this kind of activity gives us a place to actively continue to recruit and fill vacancies by extolling the benefits of working for Stanislaus County. And I think you touched on that this morning, Supervisor, and that this is expected to draw the most successful applicants who will come join us to meet the community needs at large. So wanted to make that pitch. Hope everyone shows up on May 12th. And then finally, we did get notice that the County Engineers Association of California recognized the Hickman Road Bridge project as the 2023 Outstanding Local Roads and Road Project Award recipient. This new bridge provides a reliable connection between the city of Waterford and the community of Hickman, a safer crossing for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists, dependable access for first responders, residents, and our community, and improves the reliability of the Hickman water system. So just lots in the works and lots for all of us to be proud of. The board priorities are displayed there on the screen, and they were, as Damien noted, slightly modified at the beginning of our current two-year cycle. So there they are, and we'll be continuing to report within those important focus areas. We'll begin our next two-year cycle on July 1st of 2024. It will end June of 2026. We'll be continuing our performance outcomes report process. And the goal with that, as we go actually sooner than you would think to be building the two-year budget that ends 2026, is that our measures will continue to progress up the pyramid and be able to show our county programs and services having a positive effect, are people better off, which we hope that will be what the data shows. And on the occasion the data does not show that, we will learn from it, make the necessary changes, and continue to improve.
And I'd like to end with a staff recommendation, which is to accept the 2021-2022 Annual Performance Outcomes Report. And staff, we're here available for questions should you have any. Thank you.
Damien, Patrice, thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. Do any board members have any comments or questions?
I just want to make sure that Dave Lehman is not president of SEAC, and that's why we got the award, right? Just kidding. Great project out there.
Okay. We will open it up to members of the public. Do any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Chiesa, a second by Supervisor Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously, 5-0. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8.4, which is a report from Health Services Agency on COVID-19 and other public health priorities, and that it will be by Heather Duvall.
We have a team today.
And you have a team. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. While we get the presentation loaded and set up here, I just wanted to make some opening remarks. So, good morning, Chairman Condit, Supervisors, Mr. Hayes, and Mr. Bose. I'm Mary Ann Lilly. I'm the Health Services Agency Director, and very pleased to be here this morning. I wanted to open and make some introductory comments, mainly because of an introduction that really should be made, too. You are certainly familiar with the new Public Health Officer, Dr. Papa, who is about 4 months now into the new role. But I'm also really pleased to introduce you. You've met Heather Duvall before, but not in this role. Heather is now the Public Health Director. So this is our very capable leadership leading the Public Health Division of the Health Services Agency. So this morning we're going to, we've been here giving presentations kind of based on cadence, based on trends of what's going on. Certainly things have changed, and in a lot of ways that's a very good thing. And so what we wanted to do this morning was just to give you a little more of an overview of the picture that we've had in the last few years. And then also there were certainly a lot of community health needs prior to 2020, and we have those needs remain, and so we're going to be able to give you a little bit of information about what we've been able to focus on in terms of programs and planning. So with that, Dr. Popper is going to start the presentation. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. So throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, representatives from public health have given many reports before the Board of Supervisors on COVID-19. So we are here to give another report on COVID-19 and to discuss the progress we have had on this in the community, as well as to discuss some next steps and projects with you all. So next slide. So this slide looks at our total cases in Stanislaus County. So at the very bottom, you can see the years. We have 2021, 2022, and 2023, and those represent roughly the start dates of those years. And this slide actually looks at both, in the dark black line is the county, Stanislaus County, and the gray line is the state. So our total case numbers for COVID-19 did increase from 2020 to 2021, and then further in 2022. This trend was seen across different race groups, and this has been punctuated by significant surge periods with a return to a lower level baseline of circulating cases. Reported cases to public health in 2023 have overall been lower. Overall, Stanislaus County has been mirroring trends elsewhere in the state. Keep in mind, however, that as the pandemic has progressed and over-the-counter tests later became available and then more widely used, the cases that were being reported to public health decreased, so cases no longer represent the most accurate picture of COVID-19 in our community. Next slide. So this slide is looking at COVID-19 hospitalizations in our county. So throughout the pandemic, we have kept a close eye on the impact of COVID-19 on our hospitals. Our hospitals faced many stressors during previous surge periods. We can see the higher level of hospitalizations in 2020 and 2021 compared overall with 2022 and 23. While the number of hospitalizations due to COVID-19 has certainly significantly decreased, there are still people being hospitalized with COVID-19. Next slide, please. So this slide is looking at ICU beds. And ICU beds are where the sickest patients are cared for, not just for COVID-19. And this is sort of as a measure of hospital capacity. And we can see that this has remained stable for some time. Next slide. So this slide is looking at our death rate in Stanislaus County that's attributable to COVID-19 throughout the pandemic. So we did see an increase in death rates during 2021 when we had an increase in cases then compared to 2020. Some of our mitigation efforts, such as vaccination and other therapeutic options, were just becoming available. I think the vaccination was just approved at the end of 2020, and we spent much of 2021 was spent in efforts to get as many people as we could their first COVID-19 vaccines. Reassuringly, we see a significant decrease in the overall death rate for 2022, and that trend is continuing into 2023. Next slide. So this slide is a timeline of the COVID-19 emergency responses at various levels, including the various local emergency, the local health emergency, and when they ended or will be ending. So in Stanislaus County, we ended our local emergency on February 8th of 2022, our local health emergency on March 8th of 2022. The state emergency ended in February of this year, and the federal health emergency is scheduled to end in May of this year. So the ending of these, we'll go back to that one for a second. So the ending of these emergencies have invariably brought about changes. So with the state emergency, the ending of the state emergency, our community testing sites, which were sponsored by the state, were closed. With the ending of the federal emergency, certain federal waivers and flexibilities are going away. For example, allowing for the continuous Medi-Cal enrollment is going away. And we are certainly working with our partners and getting the word out about this and making sure people are prepared for this. On all levels, local, state, and federal, things have progressed enough where infrastructure is more developed and the tools are available to combat COVID-19 are readily available. In general, services have moved away from public health to where they traditionally lay in the community within our healthcare system, including our pharmacies. Over-the-counter tests are readily available at pharmacies and within our healthcare system. So just some, next slide. So just some updated guidance on various topics. So just recently, you may or may not have heard that the FDA is streamlining the vaccination process. Essentially, the FDA discontinued authorization of what we call the monovalent mRNA vaccines. And these vaccines were being used as the primary, for most people, they receive these as their primary COVID-19 vaccine series. Moving forward, what we call the bivalent shots. Bivalent shots means they have more than one strain of COVID-19, which were being used for boosters, will be the main COVID-19 vaccines given. And this will allow for significant streamlining of the COVID-19 vaccination process for most people. Most people age 6 and over will need just one dose for their primary vaccination. From what I've seen in the language, the reason why the FDA felt comfortable doing this is that studies that look at studies of the population who are over age 5 have shown most of this population has shown evidence of immunity either from vaccination or illness. So they feel that this population already has a really good foundation for immunity on which they can then add the bivalent booster as the main vaccine. So there really isn't as much need for a primary vaccination series anymore. Also looking at over-the-counter test kits. We don't know how long these will, the state, because with the ending of the federal or the state health emergency, a lot of our community testing sites were closed, but the state did make allowance for this, and they have allocated us a significant number of over-the-counter test kits. And we are endeavoring to distribute these to the community and to make these widely available for those who want them. So we have listed on our webpage sites where these over-the-counter test kits are available. We don't know how long these will be available, but right now they are abundantly plentiful. So as always, we encourage people, especially our most vulnerable community members, to do what they need to be as healthy as possible, including taking the precautions they need to take.
Well, wonderful. Good morning, everyone. I get the opportunity to talk about some of the positive things that have come out of this, and one of those is really how we feel that we are better positioned since the pandemic. Patrice talked earlier about learning organizations, and we certainly all learned a lot and have grown considerably. Not long after, during the ending days of the pandemic, we saw another outbreak occur with Mpox. The positive of that is we really had some systems in place. We had medical investigators trained. They were quickly able to do case investigation, contact tracing, and deploy vaccine clinics really much quicker than we were before. And we're really proud of that opportunity. We also had partnerships that were deepened during the pandemic that we could just quickly connect with people and get things moving. Community collaboration is something that I'm really proud of historically that we've had, but that grew and deepened during the pandemic and continues. We continue to have a monthly school meeting. Public health is working closely with our school partners to just talk about beyond COVID guidance, but other things that are so important to our young families and children in our community so that we can have healthier kids. We also have continued our partnership with healthcare facilities. We continue to meet with them on the executive level, as well as with emergency departments and all other levels to ensure collaboration back and forth. We're working to increase access to immunizations at children's medical homes as well there. In the areas of data, our data gathering and analysis has gotten so much better both at the state and the local level. You saw our website grow and change during the pandemic. We've got a great team of epidemiologists. As those have evolved, we brought some people in with some incredible skills, and I look forward to even more infographics or really easy to read and understand data that we can share with our community. We also have wastewater surveillance, which was not very common. Now that's a much more common. And looking at things beyond COVID, influenza, norovirus, so we can really see what's coming and so we can be better prepared. Some of the other areas that we've grown, I spoke briefly about immunizations. We did see a little bit of a lull in our immunization rates with children, given the lack of people going into the doctor for things during the pandemic. That's really begun to improve greatly, but we've continued our partnerships with medical providers and the Medi-Cal managed care plans to host back-to-school clinics and also just really leverage those resources that we gained to reach out to the community so that we can be talking about all vaccine preventable diseases and providing those when necessary. And most importantly, helping people, as Dr. Papa said, get back to their medical home and get their care where they can have overall well-child care. Emergency preparedness, of course, the crux of the pandemic. But during the last few months, we've practiced and updated the pediatric surge plan, working on an agreement with local healthcare providers for intra-county mutual aid to really build on some of the things that we learned and growing from. We're also pre-identifying vulnerable populations for quicker targeted response going forward. Healthy Families America is really an exciting program that we've been able to recently add, and this is an expansion of our current public health nursing program to really look at improving birth outcomes, which is something we've always done, but looking at strengthening parent-child bonds and promoting school readiness. I also get to do a little update on our community health improvement plan. We've talked about that. We provided an update when we came to you to talk about our public health annual report. This is really a community-wide collective effort. We're building upon that. I've got a little time frame here to kind of show how this is a cyclical process that we will continue to do every 3 years in partnership. Our community health assessment is that first phase where we gather all the data. Phase 2 is the development of the CHIP where we plan and prioritize. We did have a little delay in implementation, as you know. Folks, community partners and public health itself were working in the response and had a little lull there. But this is where I want to kind of mention and reiterate what Patrice was saying about being a learning organization. We put a pause. We reached back out to community partners and said, what do things look like now? What is the data showing us, and where should we be putting our efforts? We have developed a revised CHIP that we'll be sharing with our partners. I've got an invitation at the end I'll share with you all, but we really are in that implementation phase, and we'll come back in 2024 with our local hospitals, health providers, and other key partners to start this process all over again. The 4 CHIP focus areas, as we have shared with you before, are chronic disease prevention, communicable disease prevention, housing and homelessness, and tobacco and substance use. Again, this is something we work at. This is not just public health working on this. Although we are the backbone and the support of this, it is really a collective effort. I did want to highlight some of the things that we are doing to public health directly to support the CHIP. Through our WIC program, we've been able to distribute over 10,000 families a month have redeemed over $300,000 in fruits and vegetable benefits. So we know from that when we're talking about how are we doing, who's better off, we know from these numbers that these families actually are redeeming and purchasing fruits and vegetables to be eating them more frequently than they could previously. We had 1,500 students during Children's Oral Health Month receive a dental screening, fluoride varnish, and oral health education. Our public health nurses, if you know, do just an incredible job, and they've expanded out to include support for housing and substance use. They've really worked closely with substance abusing family members to get them into housing, which will go a long way in their treatment by meeting their basic needs first. Through the work that we're doing with teens, I'm very happy to share that we have 6 young people that will be graduating from high school this year through the program, and we have several young women that have been in the program that are currently at MJC, Stanislaus State, and in vocational programs. So we really see the growth there. And as far as communicable diseases, recently there was outreach done in one of our local parks to test and treat syphilis and HIV testing. And this is one of the ways that we can reduce communicable disease transmission in our unsheltered population. So as I said at the end, I had an invitation. On May 4th, we will be reconvening to share with our partners and any members of the community about where we are with the CHIP. We're modeling this very much after the performance measures that Patrice and Damien were able to share. We will be sharing our scorecards, which look at how much have we done, who's better off, and what data indicators that we'll be monitoring going forward so we can keep an eye on that work. We do welcome anybody in the public to attend. There's a QR code to follow as well as emailing the CHIP, but the information there is where the meeting is being held, and we look forward to all community members coming in and helping us move this forward. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you. As Marianne said, this is one of our last times that we hope to be talking to you all about COVID. We want to talk about all the other great things that we're doing. We will be coming back at the end of the year to talk about our public health annual report, but really, really want to highlight that we could not have done this without the incredible partnerships we've had in the county, leadership, large county departments, small county departments, community-based organizations, and many individuals that stepped up and helped during the pandemic, and we really, really appreciate that. So we'll leave that up so folks can see it that are hopefully tuned in for this, and if you have any questions for us.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Dr. Papa. We really appreciate it. Do any board members have any questions or comments? Okay.
I just want to comment in that, people didn't understand the public health department, essentially what you did. We'd get reports once a year. Then the pandemic hit, and it amplified everything that you do. And it's nice to get back to business as usual and doing the great things in the community. So appreciate a great presentation today, and so appreciate everything you do. Make sure your staff knows that also.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, see no other questions or comments. We'll open it up to the members in the public. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Condit, a second by Supervisor Graywall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously 5-0. Thank you again. Okay, we'll move on to correspondence.
This board has received the correspondence and claims as noted on the agenda.
Okay, acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Okay, Board of Supervisors reports. Any supervisors have a report today? Okay, Manny, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just highlighting some of the things that I was able to do in the district alongside Chairman Condit. We both attended the American GI Forum dinner, well attended. And we really enjoyed that evening. And then the following day, the Sikh temple on Hatch Road, which my family's been a member for since I've been a child, held their 6th annual Vaisakhi Mela. And the reason I want to tell that is I know there was some traffic situations because they expected about 2,500 people to show up, but about 5,000 people showed up. And it was a great event alongside Supervisor Condon and I. Congressman Duarte was there, Assemblymember Juan Alanis, Rosalinda Vieira from Ceres City Council District 2, and Mayor Javier Lopez, and Jeremiah Williams showed up after we had left, and he posted some pictures of himself wearing a turban, which I really enjoyed seeing. So great event, and we really appreciate being at those events. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Vito?
Thank you very much, and I would like to report out. Last week, the chairman and myself were in Washington, D.C., advocating on behalf of transportation issues. We also had Mayor Lopez, let's see if I can do this, Mayor Zwolin, Vice Mayor Franco, Councilwoman Hernandez. I'm missing one person, aren't I? I think, okay, we're going to go with that, and he can sit and think about it. So we had meetings with Senator Feinstein's office, Senator Padilla's office, our local Congressman John Duarte, and then the Department of Transportation. There were many different offices, Office of the Secretary, Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Highways, Federal Railroads, Federal Transit, and the White House. And just to give you a flavor of what we were advocating on behalf of, it was SR 132. We were asking for an earmark of $5 million for design of phase 2 and 3, to continue designing phase 2 and 3. North County Corridor, we have a RAISE grant in, and our ask is $25 million. That's the first phase. You've heard lots about, we were doing resolutions of necessity today for that first phase, which is 2.3 miles. We were asking from DOT the $25 million, and we're also asking from Federal Railroads Administration for a railroad crossing elimination for some money. 7th Street Bridge replacement, we got some disappointing news right as we were there. We'd asked for some money for what is a completely deficient and most important bridge, 16,000 cars a day across that bridge, and it rates at a 2 to a 5 on a scale of 1 to 100. There were only 2 bridges in California awarded. Most of the money is going to those really important presidential states, Ohio, and I understand it, but again, we have the need. We also advocated for First Rapid Transit Comprehensive Plan Project, which is essentially a bus rapid transit route here for Stan RTA, and we're asking for $500,000 in planning money. Rails, where we asked a lot of money, North Lathrop Transfer Station, we're asking for $25 million for Department of Transportation. Federal Railroads, Valley Rail Capacity Enhancement, we're asking for $75 million, and we've already secured $18 million in state rail money. Rail Academy, which is to build our own workforce, we asked for $1.6 million. Modesto Empire Traction Company, which operates, there were a couple of earmarks put in by Senator Padilla and Senator Feinstein. Great news. It's a safety issue, $3.8 million. Also, Ceres Mitchell Interchange, Patterson Sperry Road Interchange, air quality. So that's what we did, and we did it all in 3 whole days. And you spend a lot of time traveling, and weather's not always great, but I think it was a very positive experience for all of us. And then the other thing I wanted to report out really quick, because I'm not sure either one of you, our members will, but Stan RTA was awarded the Outstanding Transportation Agency Award. It's the youngest agency to ever receive the award from CalAct, and I always have to congratulate the board. We have some new members, but Chairman Condit is on the board, and then there's 2 original members, Carla Strong and Terry Withrow, Supervisor Withrow, and Adam Barth is doing great work there. And I just am very impressed with the continued progress trying to make what is a world-class transit agency here in Stanislaus County. So congratulations to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Vito. And I just have a quick report. I want to thank Mr. Lehman and our Public Works Department for an incredible job of maintaining Las Palmas Avenue with the palm trees. We've gotten glowing remarks from our residents out there on the west side about the entry into Patterson, and they have just done a phenomenal job in maintaining those palm trees, which I know can be kind of pesky at times. I also, over the weekend, amongst my other activities, I was given the opportunity to attend the Cherokee Nation powwow in Fresno, the Greater Central Valley Cherokees hosted, which I'm a member of, and I know Supervisor Condit as well as a Cherokee Nation citizen, and he got to attend the powwow in Suisun up in the Greater Bay Area Cherokees. But it was a great opportunity to meet with the Principal Chief, Chuck Hoshkin Jr., as well as our at-large tribal council members. And I did extend an invite to Chief Hoshkin, if at all possible, if he could maybe attend one of our meetings next time they're out in California. He expressed sincere interest in that and would love to host him here in Stanislaus County, in the near future. He does have an election in June, so he said once he gets beyond his election, he can possibly make some time to come out and visit us here in Stanislaus. I know we have our state and federal partners here today. If you guys have anything to report on, we'd welcome you.
Thank you. Good morning, afternoonish. Chairman, board members, county staff, and community, thank you. Just want to take a quick second to thank the City of Ceres, Chamber, Stanislaus Latino Chamber, Senator Alvarado Gill, Assembly Member Alanis, Chairman Condit, and Mayor Lopez for having the Ceres Legislative Breakfast last Friday. It was a great opportunity and amazing turnout for the community to hear from the elected officials and hear about our district. A couple things from Congressman in D.C. this past week. Congressman Duarte had the honor of welcoming the Central Valley Honor Flight to the U.S. Capitol. Since its inaugural flight in 2013, the Central Valley Honor Flight has sent countless veterans to Washington, D.C. to meet with their policymakers, see the sights, and get the recognition they deserve. They definitely deserve. On Wednesday, Congressman Duarte participated in the House Natural Resource Committee oversight hearing examining the budget for the Department of Interior. Congressman Duarte was able to question Security Holland about the federal government's failed approach to water policy in California, regulatory hurdles blocking water storage, and how to improve effective cooperation between the state and federal government. The Clean Water Act is an essential piece of legislation that ensures clean water for every American. However, the implementation of the Clean Water Act has significant room for improvement. Congressman Duarte is committed to both protecting our access to clean water and ensuring that our farmers are not overburdened with the regulatory uncertainties. As we approach the summer, we're looking at the potential of the flooding here in the valley, and Congressman Duarte and our staff are dedicated to mitigating the impacts of flood damage and ensuring that our valley families will not have to deal with those again. Also want to thank Supervisor Condit and Chiesa for going down to D.C. I hope you guys had a great time, and thank you for meeting with Congressman Duarte on behalf of Stanislaus County. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. And me and Mayor Lopez actually got to share a flight back from D.C. with Congressman Duarte, so that was very nice. And we enjoyed dinner with him as well. He's a very great host. Justin, good morning.
Good morning. Well, you guys kind of stole all my thunder today about all we had going on in the district. American GI Forum. Can you remind me how to pronounce it? Yeah, the Sikh Temple, of course, Vaisakhi. There we go, Vaisakhi. Assemblymember Alanis also took part in the benefit dinner at Hope 209, helped shedding some light on some of the domestic violence, sexual trafficking issues that we see throughout the state and in the county as well. We're grateful to be a part of that. But I really want to focus on what we have coming up this week in Sacramento. So as we travel throughout the district from Modesto and Gustine, we hear, above all else, that our community feels unsafe. And while officer response times and the pulling of the teeth of laws are at the top of minds, nothing strikes more fear in constituents throughout our district than the ongoing epidemic of drug use, and more specifically, use of fentanyl. The use of fentanyl is on the rise, whether knowingly using this narcotic or unaware of the contents of counterfeit medicines. Users of fentanyl are dying at an exponential rate. Deaths to overdose in Stanislaus County has doubled since 2020 and rose between 2020 and 2021 in the state by 50%. As Vice Chair of the Public Safety Committee, Assemblymember Alanis, alongside other members of the legislature, have fought hard and are going to be having a special hearing on fentanyl bills this Thursday. So I strongly encourage you all, members of the board and members of our community here, to tune into those hearings. There's 5 very important bills that are planning to be heard, everything from education on fentanyl use to enhancements of knowingly selling fentanyl and counterfeit narcotics. So I strongly encourage everyone to get a part of that. Please reach out to our office. We're on the 5th floor here in this building. You can contact us at 209-521-2201, and we can get you any information you need regarding the bills being heard or how to tune into that hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Legislative Fiscal and Management Report, CEO Hayes.
Well, I wanted to provide a quick update on the conversations going on in Sacramento related to fentanyl, but you just heard that, so we're covered there. I do want to make an announcement. We are required when we appoint a county department head to read publicly into the record that appointment as well as the salary. Very, very pleased to announce that Mr. Eric McLaughlin has been appointed to the position of Chief Information Officer and Director of our Information Technology Central Department. He will begin those duties on May 6th of this year, and his annual salary is approximately $169,000. So that concludes my appointment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. All right, and we do have closed session today.
Yes, we have closed session this morning. We have a conference with the county security manager, threat to public services pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision A. The board will confer with the security manager regarding matters posing a threat to the security of public buildings and to the security of essential public services and the public's access to public services or facilities. With that, appropriate for public comment.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on closed session? Okay, seeing none. I want to thank Deputy Grogan for being here today, watching over us, and we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 10:54.